We discovered a massive need for women to find an identity surrounding being a woman and an entrepreneur. I'm Marley.
And I'm Rachel. Women like us, women who are the primary earners in our families,
are searching for identity, community, visibility, permission.
A place to be heard and supported.
We are leading with our vulnerability to allow others to feel safe.
We are strong
and feminine. We are bread-winning women.
Hey everyone, welcome to our very first episode of Breadwinning Women TV. We are so excited. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome. We have today Marley Baird and Rachel Peterson. We are two breadwinning women, and we are so excited to talk to you a little bit today.
This is huge. This is something that has been in the making for Rachel. We met almost a year ago. It's crazy because I feel like I've known you forever, and our friendship just like moved so quickly. And we thought that our friendship was unique because we have a very similar family and lifestyle and business. And then we realized that we're actually not as unique as we thought.
I love that. It's so true. So one of the things that Marley and I discovered was that we had a household that's a little bit different than most households. And what we mean by that is, first and foremost, we are the primary earners in our households, a little bit different than the traditional models that most households are comprised of. But then we also did something a little bit different in that we retired our husbands from their 9-to-5, not meaning that they get to sit and hang out by, the cabana by the pool or anything. I actually don't have a pool. Marley, you don't have a pool either, do you?
Gosh, I wish I did. Maybe that's goals.
That's kind of what we're missing. But we brought our husbands home from their 9-to-5s in order to bring them into our businesses in a different way and kind of change up how our life flow goes. It's totally different. What has that been like for you, Marley?
So it's been really interesting because, of course, when society sees that as like, oh, you're the breadwinner. Wait, so how does that work? Like, what does your husband do? Like, your husband works for you? No, we're a partnership. Like, we're a partnership in our marriage and we're a partnership in our business. And like, I'm the face of the business and we run this, but we do it together. And one thing that we found was really interesting, and Rachel and I talk about this so much, that it wasn't just us. So like I was saying, we thought we had this like really unique friendship because we were both the primary earners in our families. We're the breadwinners. But then we thought it was so interesting to know that other students and friends and colleagues that we also work with were also in the same situation, that they got to this point in their businesses where they were able to retire their husbands from their 9-to-5s, be home to whether it was join their business or to homeschool their kids or just to have the lifestyle of their dreams. But then there was this judgment from the outside and society going, wait, no, that's wrong. And these females, these very strong, empowered females who are living their dreams and being the primary earners of their family so that they can also create this lifestyle where they can homeschool their kids, they can travel, they can make more than what a 9-to-5 would offer, felt the need to apologize for creating that freedom and living the lifestyle of their dreams. What?
It sounds a little backwards, doesn't it? Like we're not able to be comfortable with stepping into who we are as breadwinning women. But as we kind of discovered this synergy that we both had this experience, and we were finding more and more women who were like, yes, I am the breadwinner. What is that called? Like, how do I define myself? We found that there were so many women who were the primary earners in their household. Maybe they're the primary earner 100%. Maybe they're making more than their spouse. Maybe they're the face of their business and brand, and it's their ideas and their passion. Maybe their husband is a part of it. It looks a little bit different for each person who is a breadwinning woman. But we found, wow, there are a ton of people who need to come together and realize this isn't crazy, and we don't have to be angry. We don't have to come out there and like try to demand a seat at the table of entrepreneurship. It's wide open for us as women. It's amazing and it's powerful. And one of the things that we have found that is kind of surprising and really exciting and encouraging is that guys actually rally behind us and want to support us as women's. Women's. You heard it here first. We made up a new word. They support us as women in our businesses. I've found nothing but encouragement and love from guys on this journey. What about you, Marley?
Absolutely. And so we get those questions. Of course, there's some people, it's old school thinking. And this is something that I heard from Stacey Martino, who I know that we can't wait to introduce you to in the future, that she talks about how like it's old school thinking to think that a woman can't be the primary earner in their family, and that women or that men would feel belittled by that. Like, let's empower each other, and other women should not compete. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And so we were receiving these questions about like, well, how does that work? Or me as a breadwinning woman, like, how do I explain who and what I am and what I do? But then also questions about like, yeah, how to explain what you do. But then the questions of how do I move forward into this and like stand in my power? How do I, Rachel, what are the other questions that we get?
One of the biggest questions, I experienced this a lot, was, okay, so if I want to be a breadwinning woman, if I want to wear, or if I want to be the boss of a business or of our household and make things happen, does that mean that I can't look all pretty? Does that mean that I can't, that I have to do it a certain way? Does that mean that I have to be aggressive or
is to be masculine? Yeah.
Exactly. Do I have to fit a certain mold? And one of my favorite parts of this process is discovering that breadwinning women are totally different. Every single woman is unique in the way that she carries her own power, whether it's feminine, whether it's whatever that is for you. You can be true to your own voice and to your own energy without having to like try to step into some kind of like CEO role and feel like you have to be super harsh or strong or crazy. You can be strong and you can be feminine as a breadwinning woman. And that was a huge revelation for me.
And that's what we talk about. We're going to be speaking a lot about leading with your vulnerability, and the power of that is also helping others to feel safe and allowing other women who are considering like, well, I feel this calling that I want to step into my dreams, but they might be waiting for permission or waiting for that person that can lead them along and show them how. So it's so powerful to stand in that and to not feel like you have to hide your fears or hide the things that you feel vulnerable about. I find that the more I get vulnerable, the more I connect with other people, the more that it actually shows as a strength, because you are showing those sides of yourself that not a lot of people are willing to step into.
Now, one of the things that I think is so powerful is, since this is the very first episode, welcome to Breadwinning Women TV. If you are watching this live, if you are listening to the podcast, welcome to the Breadwinning Women podcast. But the backstory, kind of how we got to where we are today as breadwinning women with our husbands supporting us in our businesses. Marley, can you share a little bit of your backstory? In case anyone hasn't heard it, it's so powerful.
And gosh, where do I start? And this is another reason why we're so excited to share our experiences and show other breadwinning women what it's like. Because the other questions is like, what was it like for you? What is your marriage like? How do you raise your kids? Do you homeschool? Do you like, what are your morning routines? Like, gosh, I love the questions. And it's also evolving as we go, because there's more to learn. There's also learning other people's experiences. So we're happy to create this community for the breadwinning women, but it's also empowering the men around the breadwinning women too. So it's like we're speaking to the women, but we're really excited to also show how these relationships can form. So anyway, going back to my backstory, I started my career, actually, I was a dental hygienist. Before I was a dental hygienist, I worked in radio and I worked in event management. And what was really cool is at the time, I didn't appreciate it as much, but I was working for an event management company that produced conferences with best-selling authors and speakers. So like, I was working with people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Malcolm Gladwell and Randy Zuckerberg and like Robin Sharma and all these people that like I was like running around getting them water and making sure they were on stage on time and like planning their travel and stuff like that. And at the time I was 20 years old and thought, yeah, they're cool. They wrote a book, like whatever, these are people. And that was kind of my introduction into entrepreneurship, learning these things while I was producing these events with this awesome company. But I was a little bit sensitive and struggled working in events and radio. So I went back to a typical 9 to 5. I was a dental hygienist before I was in radio and events. So I went back to that. But of course, I knew that there was this bigger calling. I didn't know what it was, but cleaning teeth all day, every day, I was a little bit bored and no one likes going to the dentist. So, sometimes it was my mission to have a good conversation and learn things about the people I was cleaning their teeth. But sometimes you just get those people that like hated being there, and I don't blame them. So I was bored cleaning teeth all day, every day. And so I started doing their social media in between patients. And I helped build their website just for fun, just because it was like something I picked up in previous previous jobs. So I started doing it for fun, and their IT guy said to me like, "Hey, you're good at this. Can I refer you to another client of mine?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, I guess, I don't know." And so from there, it was like referral, 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 until I got to the point where like my clients just that I was just doing social media for on the side, which I didn't even realize like you could actually make a business out of this. So I was doing their social media, and I was making more from social media than I was making in dental. But of course, the security of a 9 to 5, I stayed in dental, and I was like double timing. So I was working evenings and weekends and in between patients on the social media clients. And then I was cleaning teeth like 9 to 5. And so that got busy, and we got to the point where I was on the fence. Okay, do I go all in on this business and do I learn more? And that's when I joined Social Media United, and that's how I met Rachel, which we'll tell the bigger story about that after. But so I was like on the fence, do I go all in? And the decision was actually made for me when my husband, and we were engaged at the time, we were 2 months away from our wedding, he had a really bad accident. And I'll talk about my husband's love for dirt biking more and more, I'm sure, because it's like his huge passion in life. He loves dirt biking. It was just before our wedding, and he was on his dirt bike and he fell off backwards. So he scraped his butt along the road like he had no butt. People love this story because the way I tell you, he had no butt. It was. And
I have to say, he has sent the pictures in our group message with my husband, him, Marley, myself, my assistant. They're not lying. He had no butt left.
It was all gone, you guys. So he had the worst road rash. He fractured both arms. He fractured his tailbone, and of course was just like so scraped up and bruised. And he had his arms, like they were both in casts, and the way that they bent, of course, he couldn't like reach his mouth to even take care of himself. And of course, like fractured tailbone, he can hardly sit, stand, like lie down, like he had to lie down a certain way for it not to hurt. And that was my moment that I was like, I mean, look at my husband or fiance at the time, that he obviously couldn't go into work. He was working in the trades, and it was so physically demanding. So of course he had to call his job and say like, I'm broken, I can't come into work. So he lost his income, and who's going to take care of him with his 2 casts and his fractured tailbone and his no butt? So I had to call the dental office and say, I'm so sorry. I don't know when I can come back to work. I can't come in today, and I don't know when I'm coming back. And that was pretty much it. And that was like, go all in on the business. We had 2 months till our wedding. I needed to pay for it. I needed to pay for our honeymoon. I needed to go all in on this business. And that's when we went all in. And it's funny because he lost his butt, but he kind of saved mine. Like there's so many puns there. There's so many puns there. No, get off my butt. Like there's, it was such a, like, just one of those moments that of course was so painful for him. And gosh, that drive to the hospital was the worst. It was pretty traumatic for me too. But that was like the moment that it was like the decision was just made, and we went all in on the business. And it still took a few more months before, because that happened in June. We got married in August. He went back to work after the honeymoon and everything in September. And then by April, so from September to April, in April is when he left his 9 to 5 to join me at home and be in the business with me.
Now, one of the cool things about Marley and Wayne's side of the story is what you don't know is that Marley is actually in Mexico right now with her husband. They're doing a workcation, which is crazy. Just the ability to build something. It looks like my internet connection's a little bit off, but I'm still here. You can probably still hear me. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. Good. Okay, cool. So they're actually working from Mexico. So they've truly built a freedom lifestyle around this dream that you had that accidentally happened because of Wayne's accident.
Absolutely. And so when my husband, like when that happened to him, it was in the moment when you're in that experience, you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing. We just lost both of our full-time income. We're getting married in 2 months. We've already paid for our honeymoon. Like we got to figure this out. It's one of those like leap and the net will appear moments that made everything happen and obviously worked out. So now, like that at the time, I was just doing social media. And from there, I discovered from going all in, like when you're cluttered and you're busy and you have things going on that you can't really put the time and the effort and the creative energy into it, you're kind of just scratching the surface. And once going all in, I discovered what I really loved, what I was really good at. We specialized in video. My husband came into it and started doing the video with me. And that's where we really created our specialty. And now part of the reason why we also travel so much is because we travel and film our clients, and we batch film 6 months, or 2 weeks ago, we filmed a client in Atlanta and filmed 10 months of content in 3 days. And that's like a huge service that we love to offer and is creating this lifestyle for us that we love.
I love this so much. And it's been so cool to watch it all happen. One thing that's kind of funny, and we'll get into it in a minute, Marley was actually one of the first 30 people to join Social Media United. And her name stood out to me as like, who is this? Girl? And we'll get into that in just a second. I love your story, Marley. And I'm sure that there are people watching who are like, oh my gosh, I totally relate to this. Like, my husband saved my butt because he pushed me to go after my dreams, or he supported me to get to that level. I want to
that moment where you're like, do I go all in, or do I feel safe to leap and the net will appear? So that's something that we also want to show you, that it's scary, but when you're willing to do it and you have your mindset and your goals and your heart in the right place, we're so behind you the whole way.
100%. And if you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been on the fence forever about going after my dreams because it's just me, like I'm just me. I want you guys to know, like, I had those same thoughts when I got started in my business. You know, I'm just me. Like, how in the world can I make a difference? How in the world can I start a business? Isn't the space full? Like, all of those thoughts come up at different times. And we'll dive into those in later episodes of Breadwinning Women TV. But we're going to go back a little ways. And actually, we're going to go back way far, way back into nostalgic days of my story, because it started with me being in elementary school. And this is kind of funny. But back when I was in elementary school, there was just this part of me that always felt like there was something big that I was supposed to do. I always knew it. And my dad would say, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd say, I just want to be famous. Mm-hmm. And he'd be like, you can't say you want to be famous. That's not like a career thing. But the reality is, what I craved was a platform and the ability to impact people's lives from that platform. So going back to like elementary school, we would have like writing assignments, and the teacher would say, write 2 or 3 pages. And I would write like a 23-page book. And I'd be like, I wrote the story. And my teacher would be like, I'm done grading after page 4. I can't read any more of your story. It's great. It's awesome. I'm glad that you're passionate about it. But very early on, I had a passion for everything social, for everything writing, for speaking, for teaching, leading, these things that all kind of seemed to point into one direction. And so for me, the process began. I actually used to work as a hairstylist, which is why my ponytails and my braids look really cool sometimes. That's the only reason. I spent a lot of money to learn how to do hair. That's what I always feel about.
Same thing about me and teeth.
Yes, that's why your teeth look great. So when I was a hairstylist, there was one day where a client came to me and we were talking about social media and how I had used it to grow my hair business. Now, make no mistake, guys, like, I didn't understand social media. I didn't know the intricacies of it. I just knew that when I posted to social media, people booked appointments. And so I would post pictures before and afters. I probably broke all the rules of social media. And if you've heard the story before, it's so powerful because this client asked me to help her out with her social media. So it took me a couple of months to finally be like, yes, I'm all in. Let's go for it. Let's do this. But the reality is, I didn't become a full-time social media manager right away because, to be honest, I wasn't ready to step into the role of business owner. It was intimidating. Being an entrepreneur was very scary. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that. Marley, did you have that moment where you were like, this is scary?
And like imposter syndrome. And I think as an entrepreneur, there's going to be some sort of battle, whether it's battling the fear, battling the mindset, like you're constantly pushing uphill and battling. I think the huge thing is mindset. And that's something that I know you and I invest and are constantly working on, because every time you grow and scale in your business, there's a new challenge, new level, new devil.
Oh, I love that. I was just talking about levels as it relates to video games yesterday, and how it's like video games, because a little bit of me is kind of nerdy. So
that reminds me, like when, Mario, like Super Mario World, when you get to like those checkpoints, and then if you die later, like you always start back at that checkpoint. That's kind of how I feel about business too, that like you've gotten here, you're not going backwards. As long as you keep your mindset and you keep going, like you keep working on yourself, even if you have some sort of fail or struggle or something, you've worked your way up to here. You're at that checkpoint. So I love the analogy of video games.
I know. We'll probably talk about video games a lot more. So as I was going through this process of, do I become a social media manager? Is that a thing? Do people do this? I kind of always had, I always had this idea that some people were just born into families that had businesses, and I was not born into one of those families. So I thought it's not something that I'm going to be able to actually do, but I still have the dream, and I decided to make it happen. And the first thing that I did to set myself up for success was actually to jump industries and to start working in the marketing industry, even though I had no degree, no experience. I intentionally got a 9-to-5 in the industry I was interested in learning about, so that way I felt a little more qualified. I felt ready. And that for me was a really great learning experience. But then I started to secure clients. And there, for me, the breaking point was this day where I got called into the office at my 9-to-5, actually more like an 8-to-5, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And they wrote me up for missing work when my daughter was sick. And I just had this angry moment where I realized this is going to be my life. My life is going to be working for a boss who's in charge of me going on vacation or not, who can tell me no, who can decide how much vacation I get, if I can go on a field trip with my daughter. And there was just this point where I was like, that's it. I'm going to get clients. I'm going to make this happen. And I hit it really hard until 6 months later, I replaced my income with clients for social media management. Right around that same time, I also founded Social Media United. Some of you guys are familiar with it, where I was teaching people how to do the same thing as what I just did and leading people through example. But then something really, really magical happened after the next level of breaking point. I feel like that's every story. It's like I overcame, and then I hit a new roadblock, and then I had this struggle trying to get through the roadblock. And then, but my husband was going to work every day, and he was working long hours. Does that sound familiar for anyone? Like your husband leaving every single day? Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's a friend, and your roommate, they're leaving every single day, and you're like, but I just want you to hang out. I want more time with you. By the time he got home every day, he was exhausted, and just at this point where he was like, I can't put out the energy that I need to for my family. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to get him out of his 9-to-5. So I hustled and secured more clients until I think it was September of 2016. And I retired him from his 9-to-5 just a few months later. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that he instantly retired and jumped into my business. This will be a whole, I feel like I could talk
about that's a whole new episode. Gosh, I want to tell you our breaking points too, because there's so many stories there. And I know that a lot of the breadwinning women that we speak to, their first questions after how did you do this? What's your story? Is, well, wait, how did it work with you and your husband? Everyone always wants to know that. So that'll be a future episode, ladies, but we'll scratch the surface now.
We're so excited. So it took a little while, and for a while we didn't find our groove, but ultimately my husband started to really dive into the business when I most needed him. And that was when I was pregnant with Dominic and feeling like, oh my gosh, there's one of me and I have to lead several teams, because now at this point, my businesses have grown. We've earned a 2 Comma Club award, which is cool and all, but even better, we've helped other people to achieve 2 Comma Club awards, our clients for the agency. So we have an agency with an office. I have a business partner that's awesome, and a whole team of people in person in Minnesota, as well as an online university, Social Media United, with almost 1,000 students. So everything has just grown massively. And as that grows, I don't feel like I was completely prepared for what it was like to manage people. So Paul came into my business, and honestly, he saved my butt. Since we're talking about butts today, Paul saved my butt because he is a phenomenal manager. And there was this amazing realization that I had of how strong we were together, and that I could be strong and feminine, but not have to feel like I was being someone that I wasn't. And a manager, I was not. So for me, bringing my husband into my business was such an amazing relief. It was like, oh, and so that's where we're at today. My husband is home with me. We work together. We do life together. We do business together. It's so much fun. We've actually done workcations with Marley and Wayne, and that is even more fun.
BFFs too. It's so awesome. And like what Rachel was saying about that partnership in marriage and in business, for us, it was something that my husband Wayne really craved too, that he saw what I was doing. And at first was felt out of it, he didn't understand at first the hours that I was putting in, that he would go to his 9-to-5 and I would work the 9-to-5 at home. But then when he would get home, I was still working because I was excited about the business. And of course, I loved what I did and was loving the growth, but I was also exhausted and really missing that that connection with my husband, and he saw me working so much. And there were moments, honestly, that he was resentful because he wasn't a part of it, and just looking from the outside in was like, this business is taking you away from the marriage. And when he joined it with me, then he finally saw like, oh, this is motivating me. This is fun to do. This is actually like gives you purpose. But that's not to say that it was easy. There was definitely the breaking point along the way that got us there. And when we actually made this.
Oh, we might be losing Marley due to the Mexican Wi-Fi that she's having at her resort. We'll see if she comes on back. Well, we're waiting for Marley to come on back, which she should be back as soon as like her router reboots and everything. I wanted to share with you our friendship story because this is huge. Now, here's the thing. Have you ever met another woman and there was instantly like claws out, or it was catty and it felt like, this isn't someone I can trust. This isn't someone I could be vulnerable with. I know we've all met people like that. But on the flip side of things, when Marley and I met, first and foremost, it was when I was doing a YouTube interview for my YouTube channel of students from SMU. We just connected immediately. And there was this huge part of me that was like, oh my gosh, this is my best friend. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but we just connected. And what I loved about our friendship was that from the very beginning, we truly supported each other. And so there was like not this competitive, I can build something better than you. I can build something bigger than you. I don't like you. I'm insecure around you. Any of those kind of things. But it was this immediate connection, this wanting to support each other. I'm going to make sure that Marley has the link to join back. Let me go ahead and see. Otherwise, she'll be back when she's ready. Let me make sure she's doing okay. But there was this immediate connection of friendship where it was like, I've got your back. You know, you've got my back. We've got each other's backs. And that was huge for us because we hadn't really found that before. Oh, it looks like Marley's still here. So I am going to see if she can. Marley, can you leave the room and come on back and see if that works? She can still hear us. That's kind of cool. So we just can't see her. So there we go. That should work. So I'll share this link with her again. There we go. All set. That's the beauty of tech. Beauty of tech is that it will never be predictable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you just have to go with it, right? So there was this beautiful friendship that we had built. Marley's back. Perfect. So this friendship that we built was this like, I've got your back and you've got mine. And it was a no questions asked 24/7. Like, you call me and you need something, I'm going to drop everything for you and support you. But the coolest thing I think about our friendship, Marley, was how like our husbands supported the other person too. Like our husbands became BFFs through this process and we supported our husbands. And there was like this awesome synchronization. Don't you think?
Am I back?
You're back.
Oh, I was like quickly downloading the app on my phone. It's so weird because I was still here the whole time and I was like talking and then you said I was gone. So I was like, oh no, hello. Hello. I'm here. I felt like I was a ghost. It's been the best. And it was so, invaluable for us to find a couple that had the same lifestyle as us. Because I mean, where we're from, first of all, it's kind of, we don't have even entrepreneur couples. And then to have a couple that like you and I have a very similar business, we serve a similar audience, we do a similar thing. And for our husbands to have the same kind of journey into their entrepreneurship journey was just awesome.
And I think one of the things that was really powerful about our friendship is that it showed us the power of when women unite and support each other. Mm-hmm. And there's a safety. So for me, one of the big eye-opening moments was when we were in McCall, Idaho. Yeah. And we had this amazing mastermind. We brought together, I think it was eight powerful women who ran businesses. And they were all breadwinning women. So as we brought these women together, the beautiful thing about that mastermind was that we did not talk about business. Yeah. So crazy, right? Like, so what's the point of a mastermind, Rachel, if we're not talking about business? But what we actually did is we created a safe space for everyone to come together and be totally vulnerable. And it really was. It was an amazing event. It was probably one of my favorite masterminds I've ever been to because we all trusted that space and we trusted the community, that we trusted the women who were around us. And what we found from that was that it actually the rising tide lifts all ships or something like that. I might
love that
really botched that quote. But there was something so powerful about all of these women supporting each other. And I was like, we need more of this as women. We need more women lifting each other up, not being competitive, but finding that fun and that excitement and that vibe together. Wasn't it just so powerful?
It's rare to find a mastermind that isn't competitive. Like, no matter what you say, when you start to go into a mastermind, you're talking about business and you're talking about numbers, like there's even just that unconscious, like, oh, they make more money, I make more money than them. And it's just like, you're just comparing. But when we start the mastermind, when we created that space for people to get vulnerable, to talk about like their families, their marriages, their children, their struggles, their upbringing, it really set the tone that we're like, hey, we're just women. Like we have very similar struggles, whether it's with your children, whether it's with your husband. And hey, by the way, we're also creating this really impactful business that's going to change the world. Now let's talk business.
I love it so much. So one of the things that was really powerful in that moment was realizing there are tons of breadwinning women who don't have that title. If you're watching this live with us or watching it on YouTube, leave a comment if you're like, oh my gosh, I never really thought about it. Maybe it's in your soul and you're like, I'm a breadwinning woman. Yeah. And maybe your revenue hasn't showed it yet. Or maybe you are making the most money in your household. You're the primary earner. Or maybe you are the only person in your household and you're making a great living and you're like, that's right. I am a breadwinning woman. Like the power of that, being able to have that name and say, wow, that feels right. It was really transformational. And we found that women were asking for that. I mean, I know that that's something I've always craved, that safe space of friends and community that are breadwinning women, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And Rachel, you and I think we had different upbringings, but my entire life, and I think the same for you, we were looking for that, like, for me, I'm like, Rachel is my soulmate best friend. I had a lot of ups and downs with friendships my whole life. And then finally meeting Rachel and like mirroring each other. It's just, how do you put a value on that? And by bringing this community together to be in the same way, like I want to walk into, when you walk into like events, like I know for us, we love anything to do with ClickFunnels and Funnel Hacking Live. And you go to those things and they feel like family reunions. And what if you had the same community with powerful women around you that doesn't feel competitive, that doesn't feel like this militant, like aggressive, like you say, competing for a space at the entrepreneurial table, that we're here to support each other and love each other and hold each other through these struggles, because it's just natural and it's part of this journey that we're all on.
Absolutely. And I love this so much because now's the time. I mean, you guys, it's a really golden opportunity right now for women. I hear a lot of women ask, like, how do I become an entrepreneur? How do I make sure people know that I'm serious? How do I be, strong enough and aggressive enough and professional enough? And it's like, the beautiful thing about it is who you are is enough for you to become an entrepreneur. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but you're the person that you are, that strong and feminine balance inside is exactly what the world needs. We don't have to pretend to be some polished professional version of ourselves. Like, obviously I got a little bit nice looking for this video here, but I go live all the time without makeup, without my hair done, stains on my shirt, because the reality is who I am is what the world needs. And the reality of being a breadwinning woman means being comfortable with who you are enough so that you can bring in other women and we all support each other.
Using your struggles, using your vulnerability to raise others up, like your quote of rising tides.
The rising tides.
Last week, Rachel, if I can give your example of, like, you had a rough day with the new baby and it gave you a setback in your day, but then you use that, like, of course we take that moment to be like, okay, I'm having a moment here. But then you get through that moment and you use it to empower yourself to come back stronger, but then use it to empower others.
Absolutely. So the beauty of it is we are comfortable with getting vulnerable for you guys, if that makes sense. We are comfortable getting vulnerable so that you feel safe to share exactly where you're at. And we're so excited about this movement. The fun part is it's just starting. Like, this is the very tip of the iceberg, but we know that there are so many breadwinning women who need to hear about what Breadwinning Women is all about. So there are 2 ways for you to get really connected with the Breadwinning Women movement. So we are so excited about this. First and foremost, you can go to breadwinningwomen.com and go ahead and join our mailing list, because every week we're going to be sharing our new episode of Breadwinning Women TV, but also telling you some of the stories, the struggles, the examples that we have, some great life lessons on this journey of being a breadwinning woman. But also, if you go to the thank you page, once you've submitted your email, we want to hear your stories of what the experience has been like. And don't worry, if we share any of your stories, we will not include your last name. So it'll just be on a first name basis. No one will ever know that it's you. We won't leave anything in there that's identifying, but we want to hear your experiences, because I know that my stories are cool. Marley's stories are awesome, but the reality is there are so many more stories that need to be heard, and stories that are going to bring together a community that has each other's backs.
Mm-hmm. It's so needed. It's a movement that has been waiting for someone to step into, and we want you all to come with us on this journey. There's going to be so many more huge announcements, things that we are putting in place. We'll just give you that little teaser for now, but and you'll see some pretty cool content coming out. And we hope that you'll join us every single week. Wednesdays, Breadwinning Women TV, we will be launching every single Wednesday on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and also the podcast.
Absolutely. Did you? Oh, no, you didn't freeze. Okay. So if you're like, wait a second, Rachel, am I a breadwinning woman or am I not? Okay. So a couple of things to ask yourself. Are you someone who is successful in business? Maybe you're the primary earner in your household, or you're like, I want to be a business owner and I want to be taken seriously as an entrepreneur. If one of those 3 things describes you, you are probably a breadwinning woman.
Yep. Come on over. The community is just waiting for you.
We are so excited. So I want to invite every single one of you to go to the URL that is on screen, www.breadwinningwomen.com. There you can sign up to make sure you don't miss any of our updates as we start to share some amazing, vulnerable stories and build up this amazing community. And then on the thank you page, you'll see a dancing gray button. The dancing gray button says, share your story. So we can hear your experiences, what that process of discovering that you were a breadwinning woman looks like, what your experience in business has been like. We want to hear all of those stories, and we are so excited to connect with each and every one of you.
Can't wait.
So exciting. All right. So we will see you guys next week, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time on the Breadwinning Women page on Breadwinning Women TV. Bye, everyone.